I don't know the CEO or owner of a fitness business that does not have their hands on sales and marketing.
Hey, Pat and Doug here with another episode of the Wealthy Fitness Entrepreneur. Today, we want to talk through making that kind of transition or maybe evolving from kind of in the gym or in the trenches, however you'd like to put it, coach to becoming the CEO of your business. And there's probably nobody better to talk about this than Doug. So we're going to let Doug unpack this kind of beginning to end through his own journey.
Sure. The coach to CEO journey is not an overnight journey. I want to certainly set that expectation, right? It's not one day you're wearing the coach hat and the next day you're all CEO. If we start with the end in mind, I would think let's have a good understanding of what does a CEO do in the fitness business, and then I'll kind of share my story and reverse engineer. So day to day, this is not corporate America. We don't typically have like multiple departments and all this crazy stuff. Most of a single location brick and mortar training gym is going to be your coaching team and your admin slash client experience. And for most training gyms, that may only be one or two on the client experience or administrative side. So those are the two, if we were to label departments that you're overseeing as CEO. And day to day, that your number one focus is empowering them, right? Empowering them to continue to make sure they're doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, making sure that's clear expectations, that they're feeling appreciated, supported. I would say the bulk in our business, because we're service based and people focused, we're not delivering a product, we're delivering a service. The bulk of a CEO's time is probably going to be on the team development. Probably 1B to that would be, I don't know the CEO or owner of a fitness business that does not have their hands on sales and marketing. You're typically not hiring like a CFO, or we don't have that much margin in our business to have somebody that is all they do is sales and marketing. Now, to be clear, your client experience team and maybe even a coach that has a special interest in it can certainly help out with some of the implementation of that marketing. But, most owners are, at least up until maybe the last phase, doing sales consultations, putting together the marketing calendar, things like that, where you may not be the one running your Facebook ads. You may not be the one sending the emails, but you are kind of the facilitator of that, right? So that's the way I think about the CEO's hat, is the team development side and making sure the team is supported, and then the sales and marketing side. So if we think of that as not the end, but where we want to be, how do you get there? And there's a lot to unpack, but just like most of you, I started doing everything. And that's a good thing because you're familiar with it and you learn, you're kind of the guinea pig of what works in my business and what doesn't work. And the best piece of advice I can give you if you're doing, quote, everything right now would be to document. Get it so that, and documentation does not have to be written. It can be screen share. If there's a task you're doing, screen share it. If there's coaching standards, coaching cues, document those, video those. Just continue to build that library of how you want the team to do things, because it's going to evolve over time to this is how I do things to this is how we do things. So I would say when you're doing everything yourself, make sure you continue to document that. And then, of course, the gradual phase of delegating that, continuing to have your foot on the gas for sales and marketing, like we talked about in an earlier episode, where that marketing is consistent. So you can have that consistent flow of new clients, and that's kind of happening while that's going to give you the cash flow and frankly, the confidence to continue to slowly delegate these tasks to team members and continue to delegate, clarify, use those documents as teaching tools to build out the positions around you so that you can eventually become just that CEO role.
Now, do you have a preference in kind of the sequence of delegation, what you might delegate first, what comes next down the line?
Sure. There's always this debate, depending upon what stage you're at. You may be making the decision. I know one of the bigger decisions is, do I hire a coach or an admin? And when you look at it as like a dollar value, a lot of people hire the admin first because not so much anymore, but it used to be that an admin was significantly cheaper to hire than a coach. And arguably it still is a little bit more of a lower paid role. That being said, oftentimes in my experience, fitness entrepreneurs know coaching really well, and the business side is where they're trying to, bridge the gap and learn. And I would say this is a general statement, but the administrative side is typically not a strength of theirs. And so it can be a bit messy, to say the least, to hire and teach the admin role when it's not even a strength of yours yet. The approach that I took, and the approach that, obviously biased because it's the approach that worked for me, is to keep the client flow going, keep the sales and marketing going, and hire out the sessions that you are coaching slowly, so that you're not on the training floor all the time. I'm not saying hire coaching so that you're never on the training floor. Maybe you eventually get there, but the first process would be, when do I want to work on sales and marketing? Like, what is for your lifestyle? For me, it was mornings. Like, wanted to get to the point where I did not have to go into the gym until after lunch, so that I could wake up, focus on the business stuff, the sales and marketing stuff, administrative stuff, knock that out in the morning, and then go train in the afternoon. And so my first couple hires were morning coaches who I could spend some time with. That's another mistake that I see made, is you hire and then hire and then, okay, see you later. I'll be at home or I'll be in the office working. And the reality is, that's why I say this is not an overnight thing. You're going to be kind of working alongside that coach, setting a really solid foundation so that they can deliver good sessions, and then step away so that you can maybe have that chunk of the day to work on the sales and marketing. That allows you to, from a competitive edge standpoint, if you can even get to that point, if you think about it from a competitiveness standpoint, if I have, say, from, just to use real time, 9 to noon every day to work on sales and marketing and growth of my business, and my competition is doing it like an hour a week, it's just going to compound. I'm spending, in that example, 15 hours on business growth activities, and my competitors are spending an hour or two. It's, as long as you're working effectively on those right things, it can compound very fast. And so hire out the coaching, get it so that you're coaching during I think the next phase is like getting it where you're coaching when you want to coach, but you're still like, I wanted to slowly remove myself from coaching so that I could still, there's certainly always going to be the part of this business where, like, it's something you have to see to know that the experience, we can have all the systems in the world, but you have to still be there to see, is the product delivered in the way that we want it to be delivered in. You get to a point where you're coaching during your peak times or during your preferred times, and the coaching team is delivering the rest of it.
Very good. Yeah. I think that one of the things that we should always remind ourselves of too is, this doesn't mean that you can't coach. I mean, you touched on this, right? You're backing this your way out until you're coaching when you want to. And I don't know if the mental roadblock people run into is, I don't want to just not coach because they think that they're going to spend all their time behind a desk and be sedentary or whatever else. I'm like, no, you start working your way back, and then you maybe land at the spot that you like best. I know that you and I both enjoy coaching business owners. It's not just, hey, I want to delegate that and just run the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, you get to move into the role you want. And I've talked for the better part of a decade now about creating your ideal business. You get to decide, but odds are wearing every hat in the business isn't your ideal business. And if we're talking about our effective hourly rate, if you've got things that are paying you $150 or $200 an hour, and you've got things that You could be paying somebody else $12, $15 an hour. The average that we arrive at is our effective hourly rate. It's not necessarily just that peak hourly rate that, oh yeah, I can train people one-on-one and make $150 an hour. If you're spending just as many hours doing data entry, then we're not ever going to really arrive at the type of cash flow that we want. And we're again going to be working longer hours than probably correlate with the revenue we're bringing in.
Yeah. Coaching, I think, is the word that I'm not going to say never because we don't like that word, but at least in the short term, while you're continuing to build your ideal business and increase cash flow, if you think of what coaching is, like, and most of us, again, general statement, but most of us were coaches that came into this industry. Very rarely do I meet a gym owner who was, a kind of an admin that bought a business or decided to randomly start a gym, right? So we're coaches. So it's just a shift of you're still coaching, you're just coaching your team, right? And I know in our boardroom group, I work a lot with the gym owners because they're at that stage where they probably don't need to coach as much. And arguably this debate of what do I do? Where do I spend my time? And to be clear, like sales and marketing in this business does not need to be 8 hours a day. We can get our both planning down and approach down where an hour or two a day of sales and marketing is plenty to give us the pipeline that we need. And you don't go from coaching 20, 30, 40 hours a week to sitting at home behind a desk, right? I use the example, you just go from coaching clients to coaching your team. You're still there, you're still coaching, you're just developing leaders. One of the biggest skills of a leader is being able to develop other leaders underneath them. And so if you can find team members that are there for a bigger purpose, that are there for more than just the buck, and really spend time developing them long term, it's like investing into onboarding a client. You don't have to onboard a client, but then you're probably going to spend over the course of their lifetime. It's either going to be a really short lifetime, or you're going to constantly be having to remind that client what to do and teach them, or you can spend like a boatload of time in the beginning and they're set for life, right? And so it's the same thing with a team member is strong onboarding, strong coaching, strong passing of the baton, and be there for support. And then kind of hopefully not talking out of both sides of my mouth, but at some point you do have to let them not sink or swim, but let them fail and learn. I remember one of the biggest mistakes I made in leadership is Josh is my main guy at the gym, and he's been with me 12 years, great coach, very technical, very smart. And he was leading one of our group sessions, our large group sessions, which is not, frankly, our cup of tea. We do it as a filler, and we have a couple coaches that like doing it. But he was filling in and he did not like it. And this was probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So I was still at the gym, but I was at that point where had delegated the bulk of the sessions, but I was still at the gym. And in the middle of the session, I didn't like how it was going, and I like kicked him off the floor. And obviously, terrible leadership decision because it kills the confidence of the clients. It obviously killed his confidence. And lesson learned there. So don't take that approach. You don't have to, from a standpoint of leadership, feel like you're criticizing them on the floor or anything like that. But you do behind the scenes want to support them, develop them. But in that instance, it would have been better to let him kind of struggle, for lack of better terms, right? Because he was kind of struggling to run that session. Let him struggle, and then after the fact, say, okay, this is what you did well, but where do you think we could have improved there? So don't be afraid to let them fail. We're not dealing with. I think some people are afraid to let new coaches work with clients, and yeah, you want it to be a safe environment, but not to devalue what we do, but we're not doing open heart surgery here. So as long as their squat's good enough, you can probably let them kind of get used to it and fail and learn from how they delivered that session for future sessions.
Very good. Hopefully, listening in, you've got maybe some insight, hopefully a little bit of direction on how you can evolve your role, because that's what it is. It's an evolution. It is not this overnight thing, as Doug touched on right in the beginning. it's an evolution of your role from kind of being that early stage, I wear all hats person to incrementally taking more of a leadership role and maybe playing the roles within the business that suit you best or have the most impact, and then delegating the rest. As always, we've been closing up these episodes with an invitation to shoot us a message at pat@rigsby.com with any topic or item that you'd like to unpack, that you'd like us to do a deeper dive on. We'd love to talk through how you can go from this solid, stable foundation as a business owner to building wealth as a fitness entrepreneur. So send us over a message. We would love to talk about it in future episodes. And with that, we'll close it up. And that's another episode of the Wealthy Fitness Entrepreneur.